ACC. And then you're planning to do PT school, right?
Yeah.
Still planning on it? Yeah. How many more years before you're going to be applying to the grad school and stuff?
I think about 2.5 maybe.
Okay.
So after USF probably next semester.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, how about you, Salman?
I'll be starting ETC hopefully in this next semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you going to be studying?
I'm going to be studying criminal.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. That probably has to turn
Criminal Minds.
Yes, there you
Yeah.
go.
I don't think they have too many courses at ACC, or it's like the initial.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. So that's why I plan to just do like one semester at ACC and then transfer straight to USF.
Yeah.
That's the goal right now.
Sounds good, bro.
So hopefully that works out, and then the plan is to go to law school.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Nice.
So hopefully that works.
Make sure you talk to Brother Muhammad.
Yes, Brother
Your
Muhammad
best.
Shahir about law. Yes.
There's also brother Yusuf Haqqi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not local. He's not.
Yeah.
He is definitely
Right.
interested. He's in Michigan. Is that correct?
Do you remember him, or did you
I
ever?
do remember him.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember he's a lawyer, right? He lives in Michigan, and he came down here to give like a youth. We did like a youth question and answer or something like that with him.
I was probably not present at that.
Some kind of.
Maybe, yeah. Actually,
It's the Haqqi family. If you remember, like Dawood and Yusuf Haqqi, and that was a very tall gentleman.
Yeah, I think that's him. I just remember he was a lawyer and he was doing like a youth session here.
oh, okay. Nice. Yeah. No, I mean, I think he works actually in his dad's medical office now. I think he does like medical legal type stuff.
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
Okay, his dad's a doctor?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Orthopedic surgeon.
Orthopedic surgeon. Wow. I didn't know that.
Okay, so should we get started? All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, we'll open today with a hadith from the Holy Prophet. So the hadith says, عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله كل نعيم مسؤول عنه يوم القيامة إلا ما كان في سبيل الله تعالى. So the Prophet has said, صلى الله عليه وآله, every bounty will be asked about on the day of resurrection, except for what was used in the way of Allah, the Most High. So, I think this is this hadith, you can dissect it in many ways. I think it's always good to open up with the hadith when we talk, right? But it's talking about how, every bounty you'll be asked about it on the day of judgment. Specifically, it helps us to realize accountability, right? So everything that we do in this world, everything that we have in this world is technically not ours. It's something that's borrowed, right? And we're going to have to be responsible on the day of judgment. We're going to be asked about how do we use this bounty. Except for those things, the hadith says, that you did basically for the sake of Allah. Those things that were done for the sake of Allah, they're basically free, right? So when you look at yourself, it's actually a very interesting hadith because it's telling you how you can basically get Allah's bounties for free without any accountability on the day of judgment. How? By just using the bounties for the sake of Allah from in the beginning, right off the bat, right? So it's pretty easy actually. How do you guys think you can do that? Let's ask that question, and then maybe we can just get your guys' opinion. How can you use the bounties that you have for the sake of Allah?
Like you can use what Allah has given you to try to help your community.
Okay, yeah.
Is bounty like blessings? Basically,
Yeah.
or charity?
Bounties, yeah. Charity, okay. That's a good example. Okay, but some people, they'll give charity, but it's kind of like to, show off or to make a name for themselves, right? Yeah, so it all goes back to your intention, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Well, that should be a given.
yeah, right. But I think so you actually hit on a super important point, which is that your intention basically makes your action, right? So if you did the action, right, for the sake of Allah truly, then it doesn't necessarily, that action might not necessarily be an amazing outcome. It might not be something that's revolutionary, that's life-changing, but your intention is actually what really matters,
Intended from the Jumu'ah.
Yeah, I mean, but even still, you get the reward, inshallah, you know, because you had that intention. But making that intention, and I think constantly renewing your intention too, right? So every time, you know, for instance, when we pray salah, right, the first pillar of salah is what? Your intention, right? So you have to like constantly keep renewing that intention every time you pray. Why is that? Why do you guys think that is?
If you pray like absentmindedly, because for another reason, it's actually not accepted. Like your prayer is void, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the fundamental, right, of prayer. Like you have to truly be doing it for the sake of Allah. So imagine like everything you do in your life, you actually keep on having that intention to doing it for the sake of Allah. Doing it for making sure you purify yourself. You're not doing it for the sake of any person, any any type of fame or become a celebrity, but you're doing it just for the sake of Allah, right? That's how you get home free on the Day of Judgment, right? You can actually have all the bounties in this world, but as long as you constantly kept using them for the sake of Allah alone, right? And even if, for instance, the way that you use that bounty, perhaps, it didn't result in a lot of amazing results. It didn't revolutionize the world, but just the small things that you did, right? Just with that pure intention, really make a difference, right? That really saves you on the Day of Judgment. So that's why your connection with Allah is so important. And I think, especially in this day and age, many of us, we might lose sight of that, right? Because the world is there's so much stuff going on. There's so many competing responsibilities. You have work, you have family, you have school, right? You have your friends. You have, for instance, the mosque and kind of what's going on here, right? So you have all these different things, and you're like, okay, well, how do I balance it all? And a lot of times people just kind of stop thinking about Allah in that context. It becomes more, you're going from role to role, and it's almost like you feel like an imposter, you know? Everywhere you just have to keep changing yourself to fit kind of your social milieu, right? But I think that's super important thing is to just keep your mind constantly focused on Allah. And just that's why it's recommended in our du'as, or in the hadith of the Prophet, that you constantly keep doing du'a. You constantly keep, even for tying basically your shoelaces, you make du'a. Why is that? Because that connection with Allah has to constantly keep being rejuvenated constantly. You have to keep renewing it. Because otherwise you'll lose sight. You'll get lost in all the multiplicity of the world, right? What other ways do you guys think you can connect with Allah, especially in the modern day?
I'd actually asked like a sheikh about it once, because I was thinking like when I'm at work, do I keep saying Bismillah? Do I keep like thinking about Allah like when because I see patients and stuff, but he said like don't do that, because you have to really focus on your work. But the important thing is don't cheat in your work. Like be honest in your work. Like do your work well, and for example, like don't cut corners when you're working. Like observing all of Allah's laws in your work is part of ibadah. So he said just do your work well, like focus on your work, but make sure you don't commit any haram when you're doing work. Like work honestly, and make a halal livelihood, and if you do that with the proper intention, then you don't have to keep on like reciting dhikr or like have a tasbih at work or something. Just kind of do your work honestly, and he said that's part of like the ibadah of like dhikr of Allah. Like you can be like active dhikr by like practicing Allah's laws like when you're working. So don't cheat, don't like hurt anybody, don't like commit any sort of sin like in that work environment. There's also a lot of like gender mixing, like avoid that kind of stuff. Like so.
Yeah. I mean, to the extent that you can, try to be as pure and ethical, right? As you possibly can be. Okay, that's a good. Any other comments? Any other thoughts?
What you're saying is some of it goes back to purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, for example, if you get the opportunity to cheat,
yeah,
right, you kind of introspect. You're like, okay, well, like, why should I cheat? Why should I not cheat? What is purpose? What is the purpose of all this? Why am I working to begin with? And if I cheat and I get successful, cheaters are successful sometimes, right?
Right.
If I cheat and I'm successful, so what was the point of all this?
Yeah.
Why am I working and I'm getting all this money or whatever position or whatever it is? What's coming after it, right? So a lot of this, intention, it comes back to purpose. Right? So my intention is, inshallah, to get closer to Allah and know Allah, to know Allah, to hopefully attain some of the rewards of closeness or of ma'rifat of Allah in the hereafter. So that would be the reason not to cheat, right? That would be what goes back to the intention, right? That goes back to having the intention fi sabilillah, right? You get to that point where you see the fork in the road, or several forks, I would say, and you're like, okay, well, this is the path I'm going to take because my intention is this, fi sabilillah. My intention, my job, the money I earn is fi sabilillah. So I cannot do all this other stuff because then it will be filth. It will actually be polluted. And then I'll have problems. And then I'll have hisab. I'll have actually accounting where Allah will say, okay, every single coin that you took for this thing has to go here, and this you took it from this poor person, you took it from this poor person, this guy you stepped on his head to get to your position, so now he has to get some of this, and then suddenly you're bankrupt. So I think a lot of it is purpose, and I would argue I think you can do both. I think you can do the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Yeah. But you shouldn't let it distract.
It doesn't have to be like out loud all the time.
Right.
Alhamdulillah, it's recommended to say Bismillah ar-Rahman out loud, at least for Shias. But it doesn't have to be all the time in front of patients, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim
is important. Yeah.
Reinvigorates that intention, and I find that sometimes, even just like you said with tying shoelaces, sometimes it's sad, but sometimes only in difficulties I'll say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, right? So I'm screwdriver, I'm trying to put a screw in, right? And you're like, and then suddenly you're like, okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then you do it, right? But alhamdulillah for that moment, right? Because it's like, okay, now I realigned my intention. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, hopefully with me saying that, it's not just saying that, me saying that, okay, I'm trying to get this screw into this hole because I want to help my dad, or I want to help, build this thing, or I want to appease my wife, or I don't know, help my family out, right? So I think a lot of it comes to purpose, right? And that's I think you should try to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, but think about when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Yeah.
Why am I saying in the name of Allah? What's happening when I say that?
Right. Yep. That's it.
So I think one huge thing is actually just your prayers, right?
Oh,
so like you're praying like which other religion prays 5 times a day? Like there isn't really, I mean, even the Jews, they only pray 3 times a day,
Christians.
And Christians,
Do you guys know how Jewish people
It's
pray?
very,
Is it
very
like us?
similar.
it's very similar to Muslims. Yeah.
It's extremely
Yeah,
similar.
and they have a sujood that's actually like face down.
Yes, it's
all the way
really-
face down.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Yep.
So they Hindus, they like to.
Hindus have a prayer as well. Yeah. Christians
You know-
as well. I've actually seen Catholics actually in our chapel actually come at 12 p.m. exactly, come in and do come in, kneel in front of the cross, do the prayer for like 2 minutes and then leave.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll see the same person actually at Fajr time too. Come, kneel, then leave. I haven't seen an Isha because maybe they don't work that long, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But that is something unique about Muslims, right? And
But even for Jews and Christians, is it obligatory on them? Like they have to do it.
It's in their
otherwise
books.
It's considered
It's
a
in their
sin.
books. And the Orthodox ones will do
I think
it.
so.
Okay. I haven't met a Jew who thinks it's obligatory to pray, but
I think there's a lot of secularized Jews,
Yeah,
though.
I think it's more
Yeah,
secular.
There's-
my boss is a Jew and he eats pork.
Yeah.
He's eating
Oh, wow,
pepperoni
really?
pizza. It's like, man, this
Yeah,
give
I
me
think
half
the-
cheese.
The Orthodox
Nah,
are pretty
I want all
rare.
pork. And I was like, you said you were a Jew.
Does he have an excuse?
So
Or
it's
is
Yeah,
milk
you
and
said,
meat
I'm a
and
Jew,
pork.
pork eating Jew. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing.
identifies as a
Most
Even
Jews,
Subhanallah.
Muslims who commit the most grave sins don't eat pork. So
Subhanallah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
see, that's weird.
Alhamdulillah.
You rather commit a grave sin
Alhamdulillah.
and then still eat.
Everyone's got their own
Who
tests.
cares about pork when you're
Everyone's got their
committing
vices.
major?
right.
But at
Yeah.
least my boss, he admits it. He doesn't try to hide it.
That is something, I
He's
guess.
not a
Yeah.
hypocrite.
Yeah.
Hopefully, stop spreading it though.
I mean, but just imagine if you took advantage of that prayer properly. It's like five times you're reminding yourself that Allah is the only thing that matters, right? Allah is the only one that matters. Everything else in this universe is subservient to Him, right? So if you constantly keep reminding yourself of that, it just changes your whole perspective, right? Every blessing you have, like, there's of course a verse in the Quran that Allah is the owner of the kingdom. He gives the kingdom to whomever He wills, right? So when you look at that, you're like, okay, well, Allah is really the one. He's the one who gave me all these blessings, and so it's only right for me to use these blessings for His sake. Use these blessings for Allah, and if you do that, you get home free. You don't have any accountability on the Day of Judgment, right? So I think it's actually the Prophet is telling you how you can avoid accountability on the Day of Judgment if you just follow this formula, right? So I think we should try, and actually, if you do this, if you actually do things for the sake of Allah, you will automatically become a more moral person. You automatically become someone who doesn't cheat, who doesn't lie, who doesn't steal, right? Because you recognize that this is, like, Allah is greater than anything, any type of personal material benefit that you can get from a human being, right? So I think, inshallah, that's the extent of what I wanted to talk about with the hadith. Any other comments? Or
on his comment about you said you came to Jum'ah and then you didn't catch Jum'ah. I was actually listening to actually Sunni brother giving I think it was a Jum'ah lecture actually. He was saying, he called it the missed arrow, and I thought it was a very, I'm not sure how true the story is, but I think that the purpose behind the story is important. He said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of Uhud, when he told the archers to stay on the mountain of Uhud, or at least the hill next to Uhud, the mountain of Uhud, to guard the Muslims' backs, right? Because he told them that just in case the disbelievers come from behind us, you can shoot them down with their arrows, and then he told them, don't worry about trying to exactly hit the target. Just have the intention to hit the target, and if you don't hit it, you'll get reward. If you do hit it, you'll get even more reward. So it's actually interesting because the guy's intention was to defend the Muslims, right? But he's shooting the arrow. His intention is to defend the Muslims, and Allah will reward you no matter where the arrow goes, right? Because He already rewarded you, and because you went through the action, right? Don't worry about the missed arrow. Alhamdulillah, just keep trying. So I think it's something else, not exactly related to the hadith, but kind of you can actually learn also from the hadith where with your intention, don't worry about failures. So sometimes as you were saying, some of the small things we do, and you're like, oh, what's this going to change in the world, right? Actually, one of the examples we actually had was the voting, recent voting, or you giving this small money to the mosque, or you're like, oh, I can only give you 50 cents for a homeless guy, right? And you shy away from that, right? You shy away, I don't want to do this. I don't want to give such a small amount. But I would not stop. Don't worry about the missed arrow. Just do the action, and as long as your intention was correct, Allah will guide it, inshallah.
inshallah, ahsan, yeah.
I had a comment. I guess wasn't it originally the idea was you pray 40 times a day, something? 51.
I think that there's a hadith about this, that yes, originally that was what was meant for us to do, but then the Prophet during Mi'raj, Allah decreased until it went down to 5, basically. And I think there's actually even better though. I'll give you another example which is even more strict. So before, when the rules for fasting first came down, right? You guys might not know this, but for the entire month, you're not allowed to have relations with your wife, right? Even at night, you were not allowed to sleep with your wife, right? So it's completely forbidden. So you have to go for a full month without sleeping with your wife, right? Imagine, for a lot of people, that's pretty hard, right? I mean, once you're married, it's really tough to just be in the same bed with your wife and just, avoid any type of contact, right? So, but for a full month, they had to do that. Of course, during the day, they would fast, and at night they break their fast, but for the entire month, they could not have any sexual relations, right? So, that's how it was initially, right? But then after that, Allah lessened the burden, right? And He said, "Uhilla lakum laylat al-siyam al-rafathu ila nisaikum." On the night of after you break your fast, now it has been made lawful for you to have relations with your wife, right? So that was a sort of a decrease of the responsibilities, or sort of a concession, right? It was a concession for the believers, right? To make the fasting month easier for them, right? But imagine going for an entire month. For a lot of people, that's a lot. To not have, mashallah. I think that it goes to show us how merciful Allah is. In terms of reducing the burden on the people, right? And Allah says in the Quran, "Yuridu Allahu bikum al-yusra." Allah wants ease for you. He doesn't want hardship, right? So this is a good example of one of the rules that were lessened, basically. One of the, we'll say, burdens of Islam which were lessened, right? But I think, okay, so one last thing I would say is that basically every type of, this hadith says every type of na'im, every type of blessing, right? On the Day of Judgment, you'll be asked about it, except those things that you did for the sake of Allah, right? Fi sabilillah, right? For only Allah's, basically Allah's path, right? Sabilillah means the path of Allah, right? In the path of Allah, if you did something, that is not something you'll be asked about, right? So I think one thing to consider also is, well, why philosophically should you not be asked about it if you did it for the sake of Allah? What do you guys think?
Well, if Allah already knows your intention and you did it for the sake of God, then He doesn't need to ask you about it, right?
Well, okay, but that would apply for anything, right? So like, if you did it for the people, if you did it for yourself, you did it for showing off, right? Allah wouldn't even need to ask you about it.
Like, for Allah, He already knows your intention is good.
Okay. Any other thoughts other than what Salman said? So I think Salman's point is good, but let me expand on it a little bit, right? So the reason, so when we say that you're going to be asked about it, it means you're going to be responsible for it, right? You're going to be responsible for using any type of blessing that was not devoted in the sake of Allah, right? For the path of Allah. Why? Because when you actually do something for the sake of Allah, when you actually use a blessing for the sake of Allah, you're actually doing shukr for it. It's a type of gratitude, right? You're actually implementing that blessing in exactly the way that Allah wants you to. So you're properly, basically, that loan that Allah has given you in terms of giving you that blessing to enjoy, you're paying it back to Allah by using it for His sake, right? But if you use it for something other than Allah, right, for yourself or for people, then that loan goes unpaid, and you have responsibility for it, right? You didn't properly give gratitude for the blessing that Allah gave you. So that's why on the Day of Judgment, you're held accountable for it, right? So that's another way to think about it philosophically, right? But we can examine the hadith like pretty much the whole night if we wanted, but I think here is probably good to stop, right? Yeah.
But I am curious about, so did people really used to pray 40 times a day during the Prophet's time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was initially, it was not the case that they actually used to pray 40 times a day, but what happened was the hadith said that originally the intention was for the believers to pray constantly, pray up to 40 times a day. However, because of Allah's mercy, He lessened it, right? And He decreased it. And every time the Prophet kept saying, "Oh Allah, reduce it on my ummah, reduce it on my ummah," they're not going to be able to manage this level of hardship, right? Of course, Allah already knew what level He was going to go to, that it was going to be 5, right, that He prescribes. But it's to show that it's sort of like almost a representation of the fact that the Prophet is also a source of mercy, right? He's asking Allah to lessen the burden on the ummah, right? So that we ourselves can recognize the Prophet's, being a mercy to the worlds, right? But no, it was never prescribed for the believers to pray 40 times a day. It's just in the hadith it's come that, and this hadith also, I think the other thing you have to consider is some of the hadith about Mi'raj, they're a little weak, So that's one other factor you have to consider into this. That's why I switched your question to focus on something which is definitive, right? Which is that fasting initially in the month of Ramadan, you cannot have any relations with your wife for the entire month, right? That's universally accepted. And then that was reduced. A concession was made, right?
That's actually in the Quran.
That's actually in the Quran. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be, completely unpractical. Like if you're at war or something.
Yeah, 40 times a day is a lot. But actually, I think there's 5 prescribed prayers, right? But you should constantly be remembering Allah, right? Like Brother Ali Musa said, just with your actions, just the way you conduct yourself, even if you just think to yourself, oh, like Allah's watching me, that's technically a type of awareness of Allah. You could take it as a form of prayer to Allah, right? Even though it might not be something verbal that you're saying, something ritualistic that you're doing, but just that recognition of the fact that God's watching you, right? It's a type. It's technically a type of connection.
Maybe it wasn't meant like 40 times a day, like praying, like standing up, but just like maybe mentioning God or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, yeah. Even just saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, technically that's a type of prayer, right?
No, he actually brings an interesting point. The nafilas, the extra prayers, the must have extra prayers, and as long as you fulfilled all of your, mandatory prayers, you can, at least per jurisprudence, you can pray them while walking, you can pray them while driving, you can pray them as while laying down, while sleep, almost on the while trying to sleep, as long as you kind of just recite the Allah Akbar Alhamdu, and then you kind of show yourself that you're doing the ruku and sujood and stuff. That counts as a prayer, even though you're not doing the physical, true physical things. So you're actually allowed to do that. So one wonders, constantly praying. You could be always constantly doing, salahs. But I think also goes, even deeper in it. Hopefully the salahs are not just saying dhikrs versus actually thinking about the dhikrs. As we recall, I think we mentioned this before, thinking and actually having tadabbur and tafakkur, where you actually contemplate, is worth so much more than just doing the prayers themselves. I think almost 70 times in one hadith, if I recall.
Yeah. I think one last thing we'll say about this. I know we can spend so much time on this, but some people, they'll say, okay, just be a good person. Like, what's this, like, you have to, like, do things for the sake of Allah. Just be a good person. Like, just live your life, be moral, be kind to others, be ethical. Like, why do you have to believe in this higher power that's gonna basically hold you accountable on the day of judgment? And if you didn't believe, he's gonna throw you in hell, and if you believe, he's gonna put you in heaven. Why do you have to believe all this stuff? What do you guys think? Any Some people will bring up this question, and I think it's they'll look at this hadith. Oh, you're responsible for everything you did, every blessing you used, except the things that you did for the sake of Allah. Well, your God's not merciful. He's not kind. He's not generous. He's going to hold you to the fire if you didn't do something for his sake. What do you guys think about that? What would be your answer to that?
Ask, like, why is it that God forces us to pray?
He sounds like he's selfish. What's going on?
Yeah, like, does he need our prayers, right? So I mean, but I'm sure that's a long topic. Like, why does God want us to pray?
No, not really. Because it's like, you think God is like independent, right?
Right.
He has no need of anything. So the philosophy, like the idea behind prayer is like it's for us. It's like for our like fulfillment, right? It's supposed to make us better, right?
Yeah.
No, I think that the basic answer is how does that person know that he's a good person? Like there's so many people who are very evil, but they think they're good people. Like look at Israel, for example. They think they're like the most moral army, but they're just like super evil, So if you don't have any sort of standard to say that you're a good person, how do you even know you're a good person or not? Like you're basically gonna be saying you're a good person, but anyone can say I'm a good person. Who would say they're not a good person? Even like a serial killer says he's a good person, So
that's one aspect, but I think the other aspect that I think you also mentioned
generally accepted morals, treating people good, not abusing them.
I mean, Israel would say they tick all those boxes.
So the question then, okay, so they're like, okay, I accept these general morals that we do, but why am I doing this ritual? Why am I starving myself to fasting? Why am I giving money to people that didn't work for me? Right? Okay. So there's people that will ask you these questions, right?
Yeah,
you're just like,
yeah.
you're like,
Well,
Sorry.
We'll posit that yes, there are some aspects in religion that have wisdoms that are hidden, right? One should agree to that, and that's part of religion is to agree to that there are hidden wisdoms that you will not know, or at least not know now. But how do we answer the other ones? Like there's a lot of these rituals, not a lot, but there's several of these rituals that we're doing. Why are we doing it this way? Why can't I do my prayer, the way a Christian does, on the bed, alhamdulillah, and I'm done.
I think it comes down to your worldview. The worldview of the person you're describing is, for example, like a naturalist or like an existentialist. So their core belief about how the world works is devoid of God. So if that's the decision they made on how they view the world, like there's no point in even discussing with them. Like if they don't think God exists or they think that whatever the natural order of things is the truth, then I don't think there's a point in like engaging with that person or even sort of trying to argue with them if they've made up their mind. Like if that's the sort of statement that they really believe, then there's no point in trying to change their mind about it. Like that's what I realized. I think back in the day I would have like tried to argue with this kind of person, but then when you start thinking about worldview, if that person already has a different worldview than you have, then just respect their worldview and just say like, okay, like
Do you have to respect their worldview or just tolerate it?
I mean respect the fact that they have a different worldview than you do. I'm not saying you have to like say that they're correct, but I'm saying recognizing their worldview is something that I've thought. I've actually learned that from this sort of viewpoint because it started with the worldview that's what we're talking about. So identifying a person's worldview will help you understand where they're coming from. So you're not gonna, for example, like denigrate them or say, oh, like you're like crazy, like you're because they have a different worldview than you. So I'm saying like respect the fact that they don't think in the same way that you do. You know, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I mean, so when you say respect their worldview, what about an atheist? Would you respect their worldview? Would would you say, okay, an atheist, I respect that you don't believe in God. Like I respect that belief. Like would you accept someone saying that?
I guess respect in the way that they have a different mode of thinking than you. I'm not saying you have to respect what they believe, but I'm saying like acknowledge the fact that they're thinking from a different lens than you are.
Yeah, but you see that becomes very. You're basically trying to subjectivize truth, right? You're trying to subjectivize truth. You're trying to say, like, you're looking at the elephant's trunk. I'm looking at the elephant's tail. We can both agree to disagree. I respect your opinion.
It's true.
So that phraseology is kind of a little bit questionable.
It's true that they have their subjective truth, but we believe in absolute truth.
But okay, but in that case, you have to rephrase it like what you're trying to say. Yeah, like I agree with your concept, but I think you do have to make sure that you're not saying that you respect people who disbelieve in Allah, right? People who you say about them that okay, but you respect them in the sense that oh yeah, I respect your view. I think it's legitimate. I think it has its truth. Like if you start speaking like that, it's a huge problem, right? We completely dismantle their view. We completely disassociate ourselves from their view, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I agree, yeah, like you have to be careful how you phrase
Wa alaikum salam, man.
Speaking about
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't think he meant that. I don't think he
Yeah,
meant
no,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't mean
no.
it in that way, but-
Okay, no.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's important you bring it up. Like we're not like pluralists. Like we don't believe everyone.
Yeah. No. But the original question was about this hadith, right? So the original question is that this hadith says that every blessing. Wa alaikum salam, man. How are you doing? Every blessing that you are given, this hadith, just to recap, because we had more folks join us, but this hadith from the Holy Prophet says that every blessing that you are given in this world, you will be asked about it on the Day of Judgment, except those blessings that you use for the sake of Allah alone, right? Those blessings that you use only for Allah, that you devoted fi sabilillah, Allah won't ask you about those. But the ones that you use, the blessings, basically the na'im is like a blessing or a bounty that Allah has given you. Any type of bounty that you've used for other than the sake of Allah, Allah is going to hold you accountable, right? On the Day of Judgment. So the question is, well, don't you think your God is so selfish? Like it has to be His way or the highway. You have to devote this, whatever He's given you, you have to devote it only to Him. If you devote it to anyone else, you use it for any other purpose, then He's going to hold you accountable. Don't you think that's...
It's loans. Like, well, how's he giving loans? No, how come he's not giving it for free, right?
Yeah. What do you guys think about that? That was the original question. So if somebody comes at you with this type of argument, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you could.
So Man's like, oh, it's a good point.
Yeah, it's a good point. No, I mean, you could say that you owe everything to God.
Okay.
But if you're arguing with somebody that doesn't even believe in God, then there's no
you're
point.
not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I think
God
that's what he's
owns
trying to say by respect. He means that like you arguing with them would make no difference. So you just respect their views in the sense like
They may not believe God owns everything, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
This is coming because God owns everything. God's the owner.
Right.
We own nothing. God owns
But
everything.
like Christians,
So he's
for
the one that gave
example,
it to you.
they don't have this concept of like, oh, you owe God prayer or you have to pray to God. Like they don't have that kind of concept.
And they may not have a concept that, like your house, or they think it's from them.
Yeah.
God gave you everything. You
Right.
didn't get anything from yourself.
Yeah.
God is the owner.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, for sure. I mean, definitely any type of blessing you're given
It's from God.
technically is from God. It's a loan from Him, and you're
Everything.
and so if you devote it back to God, then you're repaying your loan,
just
right?
returning it.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't believe in that, then how do you even have it? That's what he was saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
How do you even have a discussion?
Yeah.
You
But
can't-
no, but I think
agree with him because you can't have a discussion.
I think you still can, but you have to explain your philosophy about why. So what?
Yeah,
No,
but
no,
that's
no,
what I'm
no,
saying, 'cause
no.
They don't see it.
They-
from the way
so-
you're
Yeah.
seeing it.
But the thing is that I think you have to be able to explain the philosophy of it beyond just, oh, I just believe this, right? This is just what I believe. You can accept it, you can reject it, but that's what I believe. Like if you use this type of language, that's not going to convince anyone, right? But I think the better way to say it is similar to what Brother Mike said, that this is technically a loan from God, and I'm giving it back to God when I devote it for His sake, right? When I use this bounty for Allah's sake, I'm giving it back to Allah, right? Another way you could phrase it is that Allah is the only truth, right? Everything else, every other entity in this universe, right, is not truth. It's technically batil in comparison to Allah, right? It's technically falsehood. Only truth is God, right? So if you devote whatever bounty you have back to God, you're sending it back to truth.
But then what if the
Right?
person says, I worked for that?
Yeah.
So then how are you going to?
Because he doesn't
He
think
said
that
the
God
person
Yeah,
says,
but-
I went to work.
So that's where that's where worldview comes in, right? But that worldview, it has to be. You still have to explain within that worldview this concept, the philosophy behind
How
this,
would you
right?
explain it? If I said, hey, why would I give this $500 in charity when I went out and worked for it?
Because truly you're nothing. You
Well, how
don't
would you, I just,
you,
how would
you
you
don't really
answer
you
that
don't
guy?
you don't truly mean anything in the grand universe. In the grand scheme of things,
But he's still going to say,
a human being
I'm
is
just
nothing.
looking at what he might say.
Yeah.
He might say, well,
But
that's fine.
by devoting it back to your creator, you're connecting your bounty back to the ultimate source, right?
Well, yeah,
So-
we agree, but I'm talking about another guy.
But even if it was another guy, I mean, I don't think a different person would necessarily think that this is a completely foreign concept. Like even and actually it's not only in Islam, even like Hinduism, even Buddhism, they all believe in these concepts that like, everything goes back to like nirvana, or goes back to like, the original source, right? This, what they call Maya, everything in this universe is like an illusion. There's only one true God, only one true reality. This is like a shared concept in a lot of Eastern religions. So I don't think this concept would be lost on anyone. But I think that we can
What if
philosophize.
someone asked,
Yeah.
you were asking different.
This person had to think, like, where did I get? So you said I earned this much money.
Yeah.
So he had to ask himself, how did I get the skills? How did I get the power and the skills and the food to earn this much money?
And he may say, well, I go work out.
Okay, very good. So does he owe his parents?
You may say that.
So should he pay his parents then? So who should his parents pay then?
No.
I agree. I agree with this concept. You should owe. So are his parents the one who gave him everything? Are his teachers the one who gave him everything?
Technically.
So if he agrees with gratitude,
But a kid goes higher.
I said
and
so.
higher.
If he agrees with the concept of gratitude, then ultimately the ultimate gratitude is to go into creation and being and
But like
reality.
this brother said, what if you're arguing with an atheist?
So do they agree with gratitude? That's the thing. So if they don't agree with gratitude, then okay, I'm doing
But do they agree with gratitude in terms
Gratitude to a
of God,
point.
right? That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So
Gratitude to a
Ultimately,
point.
we'll reach God.
So the way I would
Where do you get your things from?
I think, okay, well, let's see, Brother Muhammad had a comment.
It's like arguing with a feminist about abortion with a woman's
Yeah,
back.
or you're not going to get nowhere.
You're not getting nowhere.
It's just that, like, we believe in a God.
Am I right or
we
wrong?
do good
No,
things.
this is-
What's that?
Are we trying to prove to atheists that we believe in a God?
No,
Then
so
we're trying to do good things.
okay, so the question again was that this hadith that we were going through says from the Holy Prophet that any type of bounty that you get in this world, you're going to be asked about it on the Day of Judgment. You're going to be accountable for it on the Day of Judgment, except if that bounty was, you used it for the sake of Allah, right? If you use it for the sake of Allah, you won't be responsible for it. But if you used it for anything else, any other purpose, you're going to be liable for it. You're going to be responsible, right? So we talked very briefly, because we've been talking about this for a while, but we said that this is actually, it actually tells you how to use Allah's blessings for free without any accountability on the Day of Judgment. All you have to do is make sure whatever Allah's bounties are that you're using, right, that you're using it for His sake. You're devoting it for the sake of Allah. So your intention is so important, right? So if you devote whatever you're doing, whatever blessing you're using, let's say you're driving a nice, BMW or a nice Mercedes or whatever, right? But you have that intention that I'm using this as a means of transport to provide for my family for the sake of Allah, right? If you use that, if you have that type of intention, then you will not be held responsible for that blessing, right? Because you use it for the sake of Allah. You have to be honest and sincere in your intention, of course. But so the question though that we were posing is that, what if an atheist comes to you and says, your God is so cruel. He says that, look, if I give you a blessing, you have to use it for me. If you don't use it for me, I'm going to hold you to the fire on the Day of Judgment. I'm going to hold you accountable, right?
Selfish.
So
they say that like God makes us do it, but like God forces us to do it.
So the choice is what you say.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one.
But I was saying that it's like you can like counter saying it's good to have like a center, like a focused belief, like I'm doing this for this main goal, and then whatever you're doing, you feel like emotionally you feel better about doing it, because you know what you're doing it for, rather than just doing it without a reason. Then it's like,
yeah, so I think kind of branching off what you're saying. Okay, let's say I have a water bottle, right? It's completely I was gonna toss it to the garbage, but instead I put it in the recycle, right? And it comes back. It keeps that recycled plastic or whatever comes back and it's productive, right? Because it continues to funnel more and more production, right? So I think this is the way to understand this hadith, even to an atheist. You can explain it like this: that look, if I'm taking that water bottle and I'm just throwing it in the garbage, it's going in some landfill somewhere. Technically, I should be held accountable for that. I should be responsible for creating more pollution on the earth, right?
You have microplastics.
Yeah, microplastics, right? You're having all but when you put that water bottle in the recycle, right? You're actually conserving the planet. You're actually less plastics, less waste, right? You shouldn't be held responsible if you put the water bottle in the recycle, right? So the thing, it's very similar to this in this sense, right? When you devote whatever blessing you're given, you devote it back to Allah. It's like you're putting that blessing back into the recycle. You're not going to be held responsible for it. But when you put it towards something else, it's as if you're throwing it to the trash, because everything else doesn't recycle back, right? So that's a really nice, easy way to explain the concept. But I think that's the way we should look at this hadith.
If I was an atheist, I would argue with the ayah that's actually, when Allah says, I'm giving you a loan, it's actually to show His ultimate mercy. Because not only is He he's acting like He's giving you a loan, but then the ayah says, if you guys give back or you lend me something, right, I will multiply it for you, and I will forgive you, and I am the most, and he refers to himself as the most grateful and the most, I guess, kind. So I would argue, if I was the atheist, right, I would argue, why is He so merciful? like what purpose is this? How useless is that to be so merciful with its creation, right? So you're saying, I owe God, I'll give back to God, yet He grants me even more, right? So what that's silly. He should be at least just, or he should not even if I was treating him like a human being, right? I'd be like, well, he should just give me back what I gave him back, or he should just ask for what I gave him back. He should not give me back anything else. So that would be my argument as an atheist, but.
Like, I feel like you would have to first convince them that
well,
God exists.
I don't think any atheist would argue for against a merciful God.
I still go with what I agree with you.
Because there's like a layer that you have to go over.
Yeah.
Which how are you
Does
gonna
God exist?
give like the idea? Like they don't even have this idea of God existing.
I mean, I think the most important thing though is to, so the whole thing is the framing, right? So the thing is they frame this concept in the lens of an atheist, right? And you reframe it in the lens of a believer, right? In your response. So it's not necessarily the case that you are dismantling their belief, but you're showing them how their interpretation of this hadith is completely fallacious from a believer's perspective. A believer doesn't look at it like that. He says, whatever blessing, Allah is giving me, I'm basically putting it back into the recycle by devoting it for the sake of Allah, right? So it's that concept is something actually that an atheist can understand too, because that concept of recycling is something very clear and obvious to any human being, right? But that's how you have to rephrase things, Brother Hussein.
Yeah, I also have like to add that even atheists have they celebrate holidays like Thanksgiving, right? And they also have the belief of how you should be grateful, right, for what you have and giving back to the community. So inherently, these are parts of the human fitrah, right? Like your nature, where you want to give back and you also want to be thankful for what you have. It's just a matter of perspective, right? The atheist doesn't think of it from a God-centric lens. They think of it like from a self lens, right? Well, we think of it from a God-centric lens. So if you give them like those two parallels, I think they might at least understand where we come from.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, of course, with an atheist, like there's a certain point, even the Quran itself, right? Quran is the word of Allah, right? But there are people who read it and they're like, we don't think this is convincing. We're not going to accept this, right? Of course, at a certain point, you just say, look, I'm framing for you the clear issues as they are, as a believer should think, and now it's up to you, right? But I think that it's very problematic when you accept their framing, when you accept an atheist framing of issues, because atheists
you have to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, no, but their understanding is completely skewed, right? So you have to be able to, but you have to be able to yourself, because some people, they actually fall for these arguments. They actually become convinced. They're like, oh wow, that's actually a good argument. Wow, and that atheist is actually right. Why is God so cruel?
No, I
right?
would never do. But what are you gonna? You can't beat them over the head.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, actually a lot of people do think like that. Like an atheist who speaks like this, right? Oh, your God is so cruel. Unless you do something for His sake, He's gonna hold your head over the fire, maybe throw you into hell because you didn't do things for His sake, right? This is, when you phrase things like that, some people, they become convinced. They're like, oh wow, actually you're right.
Well,
that's a really cruel God, right?
Muslim doesn't believe that God is the owner of everything. Goes back to that.
Yeah, it goes back to worldview. Your worldview has to be strong. But that's the thing. That's what I was trying to probe a little bit here, because I think it's really important to understand this so you can reframe the issue in the correct lens, right? Because that actually helps you ground yourself. Maybe you won't convince the atheist, but at least you will realize that his thinking is fallacious, right?
Malik had a very interesting concept. He said to protect you, or in the end, this hadith and the purpose of all this, it's not for Allah, right? Ultimately, returning things to Allah, or doing things in the way of Allah, right? To get closer to Allah, to know Allah. All these things are for your own benefit. The taqwa that you gain, the awareness of Allah that you gain, actually is to your own benefit, as a spirit, as the ruh that, from Allah. This actually is to benefit you. In the end, you're the one benefiting. In fact, he wants to argue, why am I being the selfish one, right? I'm the one being selfish, trying to do things, towards Allah, right?
But this it's very interesting, because you could take this hadith and you could look at it from so many different angles, right? But there's a very good verse of the Quran, "Ma indakum yanfad wa ma indallahi baq," right? That whatever is with you, basically, it slowly diminishes, right? It will come to an end. Whatever is with you will come to an end, but what is with Allah persists forever, right?
Why would you invest in something other than Allah?
So when you're investing a blessing in something that's transient, that's futile, I mean, of course you're going to be held liable for it, because you wasted it, you squandered it,
if you
right?
believe in justice, right? If you believe in justice, Allah should treat you that way. I believe atheists believe in justice, most of them at least.
Yeah.
I mean, they believe in concepts of like karma.
Yeah.
Like you put good into the world, you get good out.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you've squandered something from the source, if you haven't recycled, right? Shouldn't you be accountable?
Same thing with like the wealthy, right, of society. They're expected to somehow give back to those of like lower class, right? That's just.
It depends who you ask.
Yeah, no, but like from
Yeah.
an Islamic perspective,
Yes.
like your zakat,
Yes.
your khums, right?
I know.
Like in the end, it's going back to the lower class. So.
Yeah, but just to wrap it up, because I think Ali was asking what my point was. So my point was, whenever someone asks you a question about any of your beliefs, like take a pause. If you know that person, think about what their worldview is, because your answer will either be mocked or they'll pay attention to it if you give something to them that is actually at least sort of relatable to their worldview. Like if you say for example, if they ask you why does God punish you for sins, and you're like, oh, it's because God exists, and like, oh, like we have the Quran and it says this stuff, they'll laugh at you. Like they don't believe in any of those things. So if they ask you a belief like question, think about, hey, is this guy an atheist? Is he like a naturalist? Does he believe in God? And then you can answer him appropriately based on what he believes in. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have to accept their beliefs or respect them, but just be aware of what they believe, and then when you answer them, they'll be more receptive to what you say if you're framing it in a way that they
Yeah, the framing is very important, right?
Yeah.
But you have, yeah, you have to understand the framing and then be able to adapt your response to that framing, because people are relational creatures. They need something that's relatable, right? So I think that's super important. But if you're just like, oh well, the Quran says so, so that's what I mean. That's not going to convince anyone, you know. So
You know, and to even be more applied, you know, when we talk to atheists or other people, even your own family members, you're not talking to argue with people. Like, you know,
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
purpose isn't to like, okay, I win. And actually, rarely in any argument or any discussion does the person concede to you, like, oh yes, you are right, thank you. And in fact, what you do, you're presenting points, and it takes time for things to sink in for people. It actually takes time. So that's one concept. The other concept is, what's the application of all this? In the end, you want to see commonalities with people. In the end, you want to see, okay, what can I share with this person in terms of principles, in terms of, you know, how can I get this person to be more, you know, humanity, to more towards God. You know, so what do you agree on, Mr. Atheist? Do you agree with justice? Let's talk about justice. Do you agree with gratitude? Let's talk about gratitude then. You know, and slowly, inshallah, there's a hidayat. But eventually, some will be, you know, where you have to do bara'at. You just like, you know what, I can't talk to you anymore. You know, you actually, you know, some of the negative things that you have are just too much. You know, but then you say salam to them. You just say peace. But yeah.
Ahsant, yeah, good discussion. Yeah.
Up to you guys. You want to talk about Surah Al-Fil, or do you want to read some Quran? Because we have
Whatever you guys prefer. Yeah.
You want to talk about Surah Al-Fil? All right. Well, I didn't really do my homework for Surah Al-Fil. I didn't read too much. I read a little bit of the story, so I can tell a little bit of the story. If you have more concepts that you want to present from it, and then we can go deeper into it next week. Then you go a little bit deeper into the Surah Al-Fil. But I can tell you the basic story behind it, and there's some interesting nuances in the story itself. So we can do that, inshallah. The one thing I would like you to do is actually, if you can open Quran Hadi and just find me the name of the elephant.
I can open it.
Yeah, just find me the name of the elephant, because I forgot the name of the elephant.
The elephant?
Yes, the hadith that talk about the name of the actual elephant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Remember you told me there is surahs that go with each other.
Yes, sir.
One of them was 93, 94. So
I'm not good with the numbers, but
yeah. So I forgot the.
Yeah, it's Duha, Inshirah, right? Those two go together. And then the second group is Fil and Quraysh, right? Those two tend to go together as well.
I think there's some hadith about
the reason.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking this, you guys, if it's not really recommended.
You did a
you think so, right?
I think Dr. Jaffer mentioned.
Yes. It's if you, as obligatory precaution, if you read one, you should read the other, because there's hadith that state that this is that each one is not actually a complete surah. It's together they become a complete surah, right?
The name of the elephant was Mahmoud.
I think I read
Yeah.
Wait,
was
this
on
was
the
from.
so yeah, they said it's actually like it's one of let's say if you actually read it, the mandatory prayer. I might be wrong. I'll just pull it up and double check. But I think
Yeah.
it says that.
Wait, you know what?
Something like that.
I want to glide it. I don't want to.
In fact, actually, I want to say
Yeah, I mean, reciting it is fine, but at least according to Ayatollah Sistani, you shouldn't recite in obligatory prayers. You shouldn't. He says obligatory precaution, don't do it. Yeah. I mean, if you do it, it's fine, but because it's not rukn, right? It's not rukn as part, but he doesn't.
I never came across that.
Yeah.
So just I'll just pull it up. So the virtue studying something.
Actually, hold on, because we actually went through it.
Yeah, but the name is Mahmoud.
Mahmoud, right?
Yeah.
The elephant's name is Mahmoud.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly read what it says.
It goes deeper than that. I'll tell you why.
Really?
I don't know.
Okay.
He just wanted the name.
It says on the virtue of reciting the surah, tradition of the Prophet Muhammad says, he who recites Surah Al-Fatiha in the obligatory prayer,
In this prayer.
any level, mountains, or any cause of to bear witness for him, and the judgment that he has been one of the prayerful. And on that day,
Yeah.
heralds will say, you are right about my servant, I accept your witness for him, or against him, and to enter paradise without reckoning him. Verily, he is one from whom he and his action I want. It's obvious that these magnificent abundant bounties and rewards are for he who with its recitation gets down to the worst of arrogance and goes on the right path to the side which he seeks their satisfaction.
MashaAllah. Ahsant, yeah.
One would be curious to see what the source of the hadith is.
Yeah.
They usually have
Yeah, that's what
tell you.
Yeah.
I'll look into it as well. Inshallah, for Surah Al-Fil, does anyone know Surah Al-Fil or
Is it about the
Did you ever ask Damien?
yeah, it's about the elephants. Yes.
Which elephant?
Has anyone memorized it or knows it? Yeah.
No, which elephant?
Brother Navik knows it.
We'll talk about that, inshallah.
Yeah. Inshallah.
Does anyone have it memorized or anyone knows the surah?
I don't. To be honest, I don't.
What number?
I used to store. Your mom taught it to me, and then I
Yeah, but he probably doesn't recite it because she needs not.
The whole surah. You guys memorize the whole surah.
It's a very yes.
It's very short.
You would think it's the biggest surah in the Quran.
It sounds like it's the biggest.
No, it's not.
It's actually more like 6, 7, 8.
So anyone know the surah?
What does it start off with?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Okay, no, I
Okay.
It was our
Alam
exam.
tara.
Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bil alam yaj'al there.
كيدهم
And then there's the sijil in there.
وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم
Hijab.
حجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف معمول.
Ahsant.
So,
Very good.
I guess we'll go to the basic meanings of this verse, or of the actual just verse, just the basic translations, and then we'll talk about some of the importance of the surah, and then we'll talk about kind of the story a little bit, and then I think that was where we'll end. And we'll hopefully next week we'll go deeper into some of the meanings of the surah, because there are some meanings, especially actually particular to this time that we're living in. And if you've ever seen, if you've ever seen like some WhatsApp messengers or on Instagram, something people are telling you recite Surah Al-Fil a lot in this time, for the stuff that's happening overseas, right? Keep reciting Surah Al-Fil. So there's a purpose behind that. There's a wisdom behind that. But anyway, so Surah Al-Fil, Fil means elephant, and Allah says, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Did you not see what Allah did to the companions, I guess, of the elephant? Interestingly, it says al-fil, one fil. It doesn't actually say al-fi'la. And I think
Because I think the king rode the Abraham.
or they tried to lead the elephants. But for some reason, when I was younger, I always used to imagine this the surah as it's like an army of elephants, a bunch of elephants, all these elephants. But it's actually one elephant. It actually was one elephant. And then Allah then says, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل. Did he not make their plans in disarray or at a loss? Have you not seen how he made their plans? They had plans, and he made them at a loss or at disarray. And then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ طَيْرًا أَبَابِيلَ. And then he sent upon them birds. Ababil, some thought that it's is a kind of bird. It's actually not a kind of bird. Ababil just means one after the other, or like
A whole flock of birds.
yes, similar to tetra, like just like tetra, like one after the other, one after the other. Birds that just came one after the other. So that's what ababil means in Arabic. ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل, and the birds would throw upon them rocks
Of clay.
of clay, yeah, of clay, or I think there's a deeper meaning than that. I would say,
Yeah, like it's like scorched
yeah,
scorched clay, actually. Yeah.
Like turbas.
yeah, but hot turbas, yeah, hot clay, yeah. And then بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فجعلهم كعصف مأكول, and he at the end he made them like a you know have any of you guys been to like a traditional like the biha, like a kapsa, or like you know, like you have the lamb, you have all the rice, and have any of you guys had that before? Really, you guys have never had this before?
What are you talking about? Sorry.
Like a plate in the middle, and everyone kind of comes in, and
Yeah,
marriages and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
and you know everyone kind of comes in around
Why is
the
everyone
meal.
looking at me?
Actually, no,
That's very racist.
no, it's not.
Everyone's looking at me.
I do it all the time. No, that's not racist
I
at all.
used to do
I love to do it.
In fact, it's actually so everyone eats with their hands, and everyone's on the ground, and everyone is
But I
around
make sure
on the
everyone
same
washes their hands
plate.
before.
Actually, this is all sunnah, by the way. Sitting on the ground, eating with your hands, sharing the same food is actually sunnah. But in any case, so you know, has anyone seen the end of that? What does the end look like?
Well, it depends on the people.
Okay, yeah, you're right. The grateful people, not the
Grateful
not the
people. Like I see videos.
Yeah. There's mubadhirin. There's the bad people that leave half the rice in there and half the meat in there, and they act like they're gonna give it to the poor. And who gives leftovers to the poor? It's kind of no. So imagine like a husk. Imagine like completely just bones and barely any kind of thing. So I think asf al-makul actually refers to a garden that's been eaten, like a garden that's just been eaten in and out. Like all this stuff has just been eaten. So if you can imagine like a garden that looks beautiful, but if everything is just been kind of like cored out, and all the stuff is just left over, and it's all like mixed up. So and correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's good.
So you imagine that's the scene that actually ended up. So those are the meanings of the verses. Let's talk about the importance. You actually mentioned the hadith. If you actually can recite it again or say it again, just because we want people to hear it. Thank you. Take your time.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, according to this wiki article, like you have unlimited rights for DO. This is for Iran, unlimited.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so the importance of this surah, for those who recite it in prayer, I guess, or out of prayer.
The virtue of reciting this surah, tradition from Muhammad says, he who recites Surah Al-Fil in his obligatory prayers, any level land, mountains, or any clouds of dirt, will bear witness for him on the day of judgment that he has been one of the prayerful. And on that day a herald calls saying, "You are right about my servant. I accept your witness for him or against him. Let him enter paradise without reckoning him. Verily he is the one of whom he and his action I like."
So that's one of the advantages of it. There are actually other advantages to the surah. We'll go into that inshallah next week. The basic story behind this surah is, and anyone else know? There's one more thing I want to say about Surah Al-Fil. So there's actually significance to Am al-Fil. The year this happened, something else was also happening. Does anyone remember? Am al-Fil.
Prophet was born.
Yes. The Prophet ﷺ was born in the same year. The year this event happened, the Prophet ﷺ actually was born. So
After or before?
In the same year. So they used to kind of refer to years as the year of this and the year of that.
Oh, so it wasn't really specified.
I think after
The year of the elephant.
I think this is before the Prophet was born.
No, he was born in Am al-Fil.
Yeah, no, like
Yeah.
the event happened like in the same year.
Yes,
but
yes,
before.
yes. I actually don't know. It's just I'm not sure. Probably after, but I actually can't say for sure. So I have to actually go back to give you a definite answer. So that's one thing about it. Um, as you guys know, the Kaaba, the place of worship, the cube of worship, has always been there for a while. It's actually been there since Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he actually did not truly build it. He actually reconstructed it. Essentially, what happened because before that, Adam alayhi salam had actually even built it, right? It was the original, and we can go into the significance of Kaaba, but one of the things about Kaaba is that it's apparently connected to Al Bayt al Ma'mur, which is it's like, almost like the reflection of Kaaba upon the heavens. It's like the
Projection.
yeah, it's the ornamental kind of house or the house of ornaments in heaven, or uh,
Ma'mur means a place that's visited very often. It's a place that is amir, right? Or amir in the sense of amir means to be alive, to be well visited, right? So an amir is someone who enlivens a place, right? So ma'mur is a place that's enlivened, a place that is often visited, right? So yes, so al Baytul Ma'mur is the projection, in the higher heavens, exactly parallel to the Kaaba.
So that's actually a significance of Kaaba, right? That's the significance because some of us wonder this, right? It's like just a cube. I mean, if you go inside the cube, there's nothing in the cube. Have you guys seen videos of it? Like, there's nothing inside.
Isn't there like gold inside?
Maybe. There's marble. It's a bunch of marble. Maybe there's gold. There was idols at one point. But that isn't the purpose. That isn't the point, right? The point isn't what's inside the house.
Yeah, Islam was born in there, right?
Yeah, but that isn't the point of the Kaaba, right? The point of the Kaaba is it's a sign, right? It's a sign of subservience to Allah, right? And it's connected to the house in heaven, where all apparently creation visit, right? So it's a reflection of our dunya to the akhirah, or at least to the heavens, the unlimited abode. So this has always existed, right? It's always existed since Adam alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, and then now we're talking about the Arabs, right? And unfortunately, just as any religion that comes for any most of the prophets that come, it gets bastardized. People pervert it, right? So people start taking advantage of the centrality of Mecca to the rest of the world, right? Where east meets west, and north meets south, and Surah Quraysh actually talks about this. Surah Quraysh talks about how the trips they do, the trade trips they do, east and west, and north and south, especially north and south. How they're so blessed to be in the middle of all this, right? Because as people come in, people go in, they can pay taxes, and they can have all these other, all this, caravans coming in carrying stuff, and you buy from them, and other guys coming in, you sell to them, and mashallah, you're making money without even doing anything. You're just in the center of everything, right? And it still is actually. It still is, with the discovery of oil, without the discovery of oil, it still is kind of the center of the world. If you kind of think about it. In any case, so the Arabs took advantage of this, right? And they started. They forgot all about the reasons for ritual, the reasons for, because Hajj was actually, I think, from Adam alayhi salam. Adam alayhi salam, if you actually go into some of the rituals of Hajj, many of those things are actually related to Adam's rituals, and many of those things were related to Ibrahim's alayhi salam's rituals, right? So a lot of those things were related to that. So the Arabs forgot about that. Some of them intentionally didn't want to do that stuff, and suddenly we have all these strange things going on around Kaaba, where we have every single day of the year is represented by an idol, right? And they kept them outside, they kept them inside, they prayed to them, and they had food.
And I think the only family that like stuck to the original teachings was the family of Banu Hashim.
Yes. Yeah. So Banu Hashim were called Hanifs, and Hanif means to divert away, and they were diverting away from this general trend of ignorance, of either intentional or unintentional ignorance. So that was the state of Kaaba at that point. They just wanted to kind of get you guys imagine what Kaaba looked like at this point. And at that time, it was Abdul Muttalib, alayhi salam, which was the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, who was one of the main chieftains in Mecca, and along with others, but he was actually one of the main ones in Mecca. And he had several sons. Some of the sons of Abdul Muttalib. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's okay. All right. Make sure it's on. He got the one and only, the important one. Abdullah. The sons of Abdul Muttalib. Talib, very nice. Yeah, Talib. Yeah. Talib? Yeah, you're close. Yeah, Abu Talib. Yeah. What's another name of Abu Talib? His apparent name. It's actually very interesting. It's in one of the names of the Quran, and the names of the surahs of the Quran. They say maybe his name was Abu Talib, but they say that actually his name may have been something else too. It's the third surah of the Quran.
Third.
Yeah, Imran. So but I'm not sure if Imran refers exactly to him. Allahu Alam. But Imran is actually one of his names as well. Any other people? Any other sons? Now it gets hard because it's like who else? Who is it? Yeah. Yeah, good job. Yeah.
What about Abbas?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then I think there's one more, right? Maybe, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back to the book. Anyway, okay. So he's got several sons, and they Abdul Muttalib. So I'm just trying to set the scene. Yeah. So these are all uncles of the Prophet, right? Because Abdullah is his father. So there lived a Christian king in Yemen. He was called Abraha, or he actually had a different name too in the tafsir, which I can't recall. And he was not happy about the centrality of Mecca, right? And he also, I wonder, he may not have understood deeply what the purpose of the Kaaba was, right? Especially since the Arabs were doing what they were doing, right? And the Hanifs were kind of on the side doing their own thing. They were doing their correct prayers, correct Hajj and everything. And these other people were just kind of, it wasn't just the ignorance that was rampant. It was also they were taking advantage of people monetarily. So they're actually using the Kaaba for trade and for banking, for interests, right? Similar to actually what Banu Israel were doing with the temples of Solomon, alayhi salam, right? When Isa alayhi salam, Jesus came in, and it's like, what are you guys doing here, right? This is like, imagine like you go into a mosque, you have like a bunch of banks in the mosque, and people like giving loan sharks, and people like selling stuff, and unfortunately some actually even around some of our shrines is happening around the Kaaba, and even right now in Mecca and Medina it's actually happening again, right? But imagine seeing that, right? And Isa alayhi salam threw everything away, and then he was like, "What are you guys doing?" And when you say Isa alayhi salam wasn't violent, right? I would argue, mashallah, he was quite violent when he kind of saw what was going on in those temples. Anyway, so the same thing was actually happening. It's the same exact trend, right? This is the human condition. Every time a prophet comes in, things get perverted, things get bastardized, and people forget. People intentionally forget, and then you get this kind of result, right? So. Abraha saw this and he was like, well, why are people doing that? I'm going to make my own thing, right? I'm going to make my own prayer place. I'm a Christian, right? Whatever I'm following is better than whatever they're following. And I'm going to, make my own place. And he actually made a place, I don't recall the exact place, where, I read the tafsir a while ago, so I can't recall.
I think it was in Yemen.
Yeah, but I'm not sure like which, mantiqa, but
I heard Ethiopia. I don't think that's right. I think it was Yemen.
I'll have to verify because I do not know. Anyway, so he made his own place. He made his own like little cube in a masjid looking thing, and he invited people to come over and let's go. This is another place, and you guys can do all your trading, all this other stuff you guys want to do. You can bring it over here. We're the rightful people. So people did not welcome his idea, and in fact they actually started insulting the place. Some say they even what's the word I'm looking for?
Desecrated.
Desecrated it, yes, in various ways. So he was pissed, right? He was like, what is this, right? You know what? So his idea was, you know what? Mashallah, he's got like a whole empire down in Yemen. I'm gonna go up there and just destroy that house. Like, what is this? What's the purpose of all this? What's going on? And I'm just gonna go destroy that house. So that was his plan. So he gathered a bunch of his troops. He went over, and he was renowned to have exotic animals, and one of them was an elephant, pretty large elephant, pretty exotic thing in Saudi Arabia or in Saudi Arabia.
They had animals to show off. Like, oh,
Yes.
big elephant.
So think deeply about that. So it's not just the fact that it's an exotic animal from a different place. It's also the fact that you tamed it too. Right? The fact that you actually have it tamed under your control. That's scary. It's like, oh man, look at this guy. He's like, not only can he bring something from faraway lands, he can also tame this thing, right? So he brought all this up, a bunch of horses, his army, the one elephant, and as he was going over there, the people heard about this. The people of Mecca heard about this, and they were terrified. They were scared. They were like, he's gonna come. He's gonna pillage everything. He's gonna destroy everything. He's gonna destroy our, the Kaaba. We're gonna lose everything. So they actually left. A lot of them actually left the Mecca. A lot of them actually left Mecca. And some of them, kind of asked Abdul Muttalib, hey, what do we do? What's going on? He's like, you guys should stay. I wouldn't worry about it. And we should actually try to stop him. But the people that ran away, so he had no one else to kind of, because that's a common question too. Is like, why didn't you, exactly like, stand up? But there was no wisdom behind it. Anyway, so Abraha, the king, then saw a ranch of horses, and he was like pillaging everything on the way. So he just decided to take this ranch of horses, right? And he saw, and that's when Abdul Muttalib alayhi salam actually approached him, right? He came over to him and he was like, listen, whatever your purpose is that you're doing as you're heading towards, Mecca, do your thing, but you took a bunch of horses, and those were actually my horses. I think it was either horses or camels. Yeah. And he's like, I need those camels back, because those are actually my camels. So Abraham was just like, and I think you guys probably remember the story. Abraham was just like, how is this guy more concerned about his camels than his whole religion, right? And it's the famous line, لِلْبَيْتِ رَبٌّ يَحْمِيهِ, right? The house has a lord or a caretaker that will protect it, right? So Abraham was like, okay, since you showed so much bravery, because he was the only guy that actually came up and talked to Abraham. Everyone else ran away. Everyone else didn't want to, scared, So he's like, okay, since you showed bravery, I'll give you back your camels. You can do whatever you want. So Abdul Muttalib alayhi salam and his family were kind of on the side, and Abraha then tried to kind of approach, Mecca. He entered Mecca, looted a little bit, and he tried to approach the Kaaba. He actually was like, all right, we're gonna break this building down, and he wanted to kind of get the elephant to move forward, right? And the elephant would not budge. And this is actually another misconception that actually I had as a child as well, is the elephants were kind of in on this. They were all trying to gung ho about it. And actually, it wasn't elephants. It was one elephant, and the one elephant actually did not want to do anything about this.
It wasn't like the army of elephants?
No, sir, it was not. It was an elephant. At least per what I read, I'll get you back in.
And that's exactly what they were marching. You're saying like, where's the elephant? Like they were just standing still.
No, the elephant. Yes, the elephant did not want to advance. And once he saw the Kaaba, he was like, "I'm not advancing anymore. I'm done." Yeah. So actually, the one thing I do recall from the tafsir, which was very interesting about this, the elephant, is one of the hadiths was saying that there is, I think the number is 14, if I'm not mistaken. It's 12 or 14. There's 14 maskhs. There's 14. What would be the best translation for maskh? It would be like transformations, I guess.
Yes, transformations.
Yeah. Or I guess transformative punishments, I guess, because there's like a negative connotation to it.
You can say like
I guess like it would be like a mutilation, not maybe not mutilation. Yeah, transformation. I think
Yeah.
is the best.
Yeah, this is maybe punitive transformations or transformations for punishment that Allah has actually given upon mankind. One of them, actually, there's two of them that you guys should probably know about in the Quran. Do anyone know the two that are in the Quran? Apes is one of them, yep, or monkeys or apes. Allahu alam which ones. There's a second one.
Pigs.
Pigs. That's it. So those are two transformations. We're not sure if these lions are still alive or not. I'm not sure if these lions of pigs or monkeys are still alive, but to this day, Allahu a'lam. Really, if you actually think about it and really contemplate, the anatomy of these creatures and their sociological behavior, it really makes you wonder. But Allahu a'lam. A third one is actually elephants, or at least this particular elephant. One of the lions that were transformed as a punishment is elephants, or at least this elephant. So I'm not sure what the other animals are. The hadith did not go into that. But there's 14 different animals that have.
These are like different nations.
Yes, that have performed bad things, and their punishment was to be transformed into these animals. Yes, it's interesting. As a concept.
One just correction though, according to the Hadith, it says it's unclear. Like the seer are divided. Some of them say 1 elephant, some say 8, and some say 12.
Yeah.
So I think it's unclear if it was an army.
Yeah.
12.
All right. There you go.
Army of 12.
Okay.
Like a mute down.
So this particular elephant, he actually, I think, the story says that he actually walked by Abdul Muttalib alayhi salam. Abdul Muttalib was telling him, "Do you know where you're going?" The elephant was like, "No, I don't."
So the elephant talked to him?
Yeah, the elephant kind of versed. So, are you surprised?
Yes.
Okay, so where else in the Quran do particular people talk to people, to animals, to ants, to birds, to jinn?
I thought that was only like prophets.
So only prophets. Okay, so let's go deeper into that. So only prophets. So you're saying he had knowledge to talk to an animal, right? So can that knowledge be inherited? Can you inherit knowledge from people?
Not necessarily. No.
Can you inherit some knowledge from people?
Oh, you mean inherent like somebody teaches you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Or yes. So it's a possibility. Yes. So when people find this ludicrous, right? When people find this like funny or ludicrous, look at it logically, right? And the biggest example of this is Sulaiman alayhi salam and Asif.
Yeah.
Right.
Asif.
Right. The jinn told Sulaiman alayhi salam, "I'll bring you Sheba's throne in a few hours," is kind of what he said.
Before you stand up on your spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Asif alayhi salam, right, who was not a prophet, right? We know he's not a prophet, right? He's a person, right? And we think he's the wasi at least, or the successor. He said, "I'll bring it back to you before your eye even blinks." He brought it back to him before the eye even blinked, right? Yes. So to answer that question, right? Can a person talk to an animal, right? If a person has enough knowledge and is close to Allah, the answer is yes. At least Quranically, if you look at the logic of the Quran, it shows you the answer is yes, right? Can you confirm that? Can you confirm that this exact moment happened in the Quran? I can't, right? But can I say yes, this can happen? Yes, I can say this can happen.
Talk to like the big artists.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. If people are close enough and they have ilm, even you sometimes you'll find yourself talking to animals and they're replying back and maybe you understand. Even scientifically, actually, if you go read into it, we're actually getting closer to understanding. And once these like chips go into our minds from Elon Musk, and they might go into the dog's mind as well, and we'll have this transcendence. Alhamdulillah. But in any case, all right. So the elephant was like, I don't know where I'm going. The Abdul Muttalib told him, alayhi salam, he told him, you're going to destroy the Kaaba. So then the elephant refused to move. That was one of the hadiths. It's like the elephant didn't refuse to move. He did not budge. He could not. Right? And the name of the elephant was Mahmud. Is one of the hadiths. And the reason he has a name is because he has actually, again, this is a nation of humans, right? A nation of humans that actually became elephants.
So was he like a good person that was?
He was a good person at that moment. So you're asking a question of the inherited guilt. Is that your question? Is the sins of the father?
Yeah.
Allahu a'lam what their judgment is. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I would say they would be judged based on
what their actions are in their lifetimes.
I think they're asking what you guys are talking about. I think it's
Like sins of the father? What do you mean?
So he's saying, how come this elephant is a good good being, yet he's an elephant? He's being punished as an elephant, right? Wasn't that the sins of their father? Why is the elephant, the son, being punished for the sins of the father? Does that make sense? The nation was a bad nation, right?
Wait, so the
No.
he used to be a person?
Yes. Yes. Per the hadith. You think it's a ludicrous concept, but again, the Quran. No, it's okay. It's fair to think it's a ludicrous concept because we're not used to these
I'm
concepts.
not suggesting it is ludicrous. I'm just
No,
wondering.
It is based on our realities that we see.
No, but I don't think you could say that for sure. Like it's all based on hadith only, right? And I haven't even seen.
I'm saying the concept of humans turning into animals.
Oh, like it's in the Quran.
Okay, yes,
Okay,
it's in the Quran. You can't argue against that. Huh? There's two examples, not just one.
But actually, even that though, I think that can also be interpreted metaphorically, right? Is it for sure 100% that they actually turned into physical apes?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think Austin could answer.
The Quran uses pretty specific terms, but we can go deeper into that if you'd like.
Commentators interpret it metaphorically, like some of us commentators. So,
Yeah.
You think maybe it's in the Akhirah?
No, yeah, spiritual.
So at least it's a very deep discussion.
Yeah.
And inshallah, so there are some interpretations that take it in an allegorical sense, that meaning that they were like when the Quran says they were transformed into apes, meaning that they became like humans, but they've lost their intellect. They became like apes, in terms of their behavior, right?
So it's not like literal.
Yeah, and khanazir is like a term that implies wickedness or just filthiness,
I thought
right?
It was. Like
Right?
I remember learning that it was very like they did actually turn into pigs.
Yeah.
or monkeys.
It depends on who you follow as an interpretation.
Yeah, there's different interpretations, right? I mean, the Quran is a book that is what we call a book of multiple imports, right? It can potentially hold multiple different interpretations. So there are scholars who have said no, this is more of a metaphorical, meaning. But even if that were the case, that we take it literally, why is it so hard for us to imagine that Allah could do that? Allah can
People believe in evolution.
Yeah.
So this is like that.
This is devolution, right? I mean,
Actually, there's more reason for that than.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, it does exist in the Quran, that this concept of being turned into qirada wa khanazir wa abada taghut. There's a verse. So this is the verse that people use. It says, قُلْ أَنَبِّئُكُمْ بِشَرٍّ مِّن ذَلِكَ مَثُوبَةً عِندَ اللَّهِ مَنْ لعنه الله وغضب عليه وجعل منهم القردة والخنازير وعبد الطاغوت. Right? It says, should I inform you of those who are even more basically chastised in the sight of Allah, right? More punished in the sight of Allah. مَنْ لعنه الله, those whom Allah has cursed. وغضب عليه, and has become angry with them, right? وَجَعَلَ مِنْهُمُ الْقِرَدَةَ وَالْخَنَازِيرَ وَعَبَدَ الطَّاغُوتِ, and Allah made amongst them al-qirada, basically monkeys, al-khanazir, right? Pigs, وَعَبَدَ الطَّاغُوتِ, right? And worshippers of taghut, right? So the question is, okay, like why is Allah lumping the worshippers of taghut with monkeys and pigs, right? So this verse, because of this verse, some commentators have taken it metaphorically, because they say, look, the worshippers of taghut are human beings, right? So as a consequence, putting it together with monkeys and apes doesn't make sense. It must actually be meaning monkey in terms of their comportment, in terms of their behavior, right? That they behave like monkeys, right? That's how I look at it. Yeah. So this is a verse of the Quran that some commentators have used to interpret this concept of masakh in this sense, but it's a long discussion. We could have a discussion about that, inshallah.
So let's argue from my standpoint. I have a bunch of du'as, from Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, who talk about masakh as a punishment.
Okay.
And
And also, like physically, we take a different manifestation like barzakh, right? Like some of us,
So it could be that.
so it's
Yeah.
like not achieving. If you don't achieve it done within your life, you take the form of a different beast, depending on whichever sin you fell for.
Or maybe it's a reflection of the ultimate reality. Maybe it's like how the Kaaba is the Bayt al-Ma'mur. Maybe this person in their ultimate reality is, as you said, like a monkey or a pig. Wallahu alam. But hey, man, the similarity is uncanny. If you guys have dissected a pig, or we actually use in the medical field, we use pigs as as a simulation for surgeries, for traumatic surgery, traumas.
Even parts, they put fixed parts.
Yeah.
I had a question. Why is pigs specifically? Why like not any other animal? Is it because they're similar?
No,
Similar in terms of.
Like, why is it always pigs?
Yeah, because they have a very strong genetic resemblance to human beings. Like, if you look at their genes, they're about like 98% similar to human beings.
No.
Yeah, they are.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Sure that's apes.
That's
There's
a
no way
lot.
that's
No, it's actually pigs.
So what's left? What's the 2%?
Yeah. You.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So our genes are. We have so many. Our genetic. I mean, obviously, if you look at the DNA, our DNA is so extensive, right? That yes, it literally the differences between us human beings are so minuscule. They're like maybe like a couple 100,000 genes that are different between human beings.
I get what you're saying. Okay.
But I mean, there's all these different combinations, obviously, that can
But
exist
there's a
amongst
lot of
100,000,
similar,
right?
also like breathe, run,
Yeah.
etc.
So, but yes, but pigs are very genetically similar to human beings. And of course, apes are also extremely genetically similar. But that's what's interesting. It's the Quran says those two.
Yeah,
right?
it's very
It pinpoints
uncanny.
those
It's
two.
like really uncanny.
So, yeah, monkey.
And yes, and that's another concept.
Monkeys are also haram.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can't eat monkeys. Yeah.
Oh, they're najas? Like
No,
When you say
you just can't eat them.
You can't eat.
No.
Wait. When you say monkey, isn't there a distinction between like?
So apes or monkeys? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure what the Quran is referring to exactly. Which one?
Hirada is monkeys. Yeah. Monkeys.
I've always heard that Yazid used to play with monkeys, and that was like presented in a negative connotation. I never really understood it.
I want to get a monkey when I grow up. Like not.
I don't think it's the I don't think it's the fact that he has a pet. I think it's the status of a Muslim leader, right? Having this like this joke, this joke of an exotic creature that he just kind of like imagine like right now, like if you have a president or even like a Sayyid or whatever, and you see him like I don't know. What would be, it's sad. It's sad you can't find anything ridiculous in this age for someone to do, right? Like yeah. It's to be ridiculous, right? Like literally like playing with the monkey. Yeah. Yes,
but it actually was way. What Brother Abdullah is saying is true, but actually it was worse than that. Yazid actually gave him special robes as a advisor, and he had him in his cabinet. He kept his monkey.
That's pretty cool.
He kept his monkey in his cabinet.
Wait, so do you know what the crimes were of those people?
But
we'd have to research that, inshallah.
But don't you see how that is like basically making a mockery of
I get that.
He's making a mockery of Islam by doing that, right? He's saying like this, like Islam is so like silly. It's such a waste that a monkey can be a decision maker, right? Right. So that's basically how he was humiliating the religion through this monkey, right? And then when that monkey died, he ordered that 3 days of mourning for all the people in Sham, and he did a big janazah for this monkey, and they had like
who is in this small janazah?
And they had and he literally had like salatul mayyit for this monkey, right? So this is like he was completely just
making a mockery of
I had
this,
no
right?
idea about that.
Yeah. This is exactly why, like, this was such a big deal. This concept of him, it wasn't just having a monkey, a pet monkey, but he was making a mockery of the religion through it because he literally gave this guy a position within his cabinet. You know?
In the Islamic Empire.
Yeah.
What do you think about having a pet lion? Like if I get a baby one, and no, like seriously.
Can you get a cat, please? Can you just get a cat?
No, I want like wallah, like I'm not trying to
Get a Maine Coon. A Maine Coon is a pretty big cat.
no.
They're some of the biggest cats out there.
I'm either getting a monkey or a lion. As a
Trying to be like Mike Tyson.
Hey, he didn't have for a while.
He had a lion for a while.
No, he wasn't.
What I would argue with you is
You know why he got rid of it? Because it was on.
so beyond the dangers of it, I think it's them to the actual animal as well. I think animal
You know how much a
is
lion eats? You better be like a doctor or something to pay for this.
it's vulnerable to the animal. I think that's the bigger thing is dangerous. It's hard. It's expensive. You have to have a big pasture. But it's vulnerable to the animal. I don't think you'll be giving the animal justice if you do that to the animal, unfortunately. And anything the animal will do makes it deserving of euthanasia. Like anything the animal, anyone who thinks the animal did something bad, if you're in this government right now, in this country, you have to kill the animal. That's what happened to that squirrel, right?
Wait, what happened?
The squirrel that made Trump win.
Or the pets.
Congratulations.
Anyway, alhamdulillah. All right, we can actually we'll stop now and we'll continue inshallah next week. Inshallah. Unless you guys you want to continue, I think we should stop.
I
think people are losing
intention.
No, it's not. That's not. But I think you can only talk so much.
Yes.
I also was told about staying too late. I think. Well, let's stop it now.
I got a question that's off the top of the I want to speak about the Ark, the covenant.
Yeah. The covenant?
The Ark.
Yes.
Of the covenant. Yeah.
Noah's Ark or what? The Ark.
Is that the
Yes.
one?
Taboot, right?
Yep.
So the actual the thing that holds the tablet.
Yes.
Yeah.
The actual Ark.
Yeah.
There was even a miracle with it for Talut alayhi salam.
Yep.
The
That's
Ark
right.
and the tablets.
Yes. Yep. The Ark of
We'll send you the verses.
the Ark of the Covenant is mentioned in the Quran, and then yes, the tablets that came with Moses are also mentioned.
Well, the Ark is